You are now listening to the world's best soccer card podcast. We love footy, and we love the cardboard they come on. Welcome to another edition of Special One Cards with your host, Paulo. The Special One Cards podcast is a part of SBCL Media, and now let's take it over to our host.
All right, guys, another episode this week. That's 74, I believe. And I have the honor of welcoming Paulo Silva, right? From some of you guys know him as Hooked on Soccer_cards on Instagram. Paulo, thanks for joining us. Besides the great name that you have, obviously, I'm happy to have you here.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. From one Paulo to another Paulo.
That's right. And one of the reasons I have you on here, obviously, we want to talk some soccer stuff, obviously, but really most importantly is this show that's coming up for you in New Jersey. Can you give us kind of a rundown?
Yeah. So in the last year and a half or so, I've been doing some local all card show, all sports card show, but with a good bulk of soccer card vendors. And I think we've reached the time when with the help of the national and then the SoCo show that happened, it's time for more of a regional soccer card show. There's enough vendors out there. Believe it or not, at this point, I have 48 tables, which is a good number. And my limit for this particular place where I'm going to run this event, the venue is going to hold about 60 tables because I don't want to overcrowd the vendors and, get too uptight like sardines. So yeah, it's looking good. And being on your show is going to help promote the event. I did thousands of flyers, which I've been handing out to some of the games. I started doing that during the Club World Cup games at MetLife. I distributed some before the games. So, I'm thinking with the Red Bulls games coming up, Gotham FC, and actually, I don't know if you've heard about it, but there's going to be a Barcelona Legends versus Real Madrid Legends game at the Red Bull Arena coming up on September 9th. And I'll be there once again distributing these flyers. So I'm doing my part in promoting the event, and it's looking good so far.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know about that game. That's interesting. Probably something I should look into going to. What's the date of the event again?
The date of the event is a Saturday, September 20th.
And what is it a 9 a.m., 10 a.m. open till?
It's going to be 9 a.m. and we're going to do 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. because we find out that after 3 p.m., a lot of vendors start getting tired, especially if they're busy, standing up with hopefully the amount of visitors that we're expecting. So yeah, I think a 6-hour window should be sufficient.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, one of the things we, and I know before we got on, we talked a little bit about this, but you haven't listened to the podcast this week. I did kind of the rundown of the survey. So it's a little longer podcast. It's a 2-hour podcast. I had 2 guests on. We went over some of the data. One of the guests on the podcast had done the survey. The other had not. So he was not even aware of the survey. So, and one of the things we looked at, and I'm going to kind of show you this because I think it's important for people to see this. I'm going to share my screen in a second here. I think it's something that people should, and I probably need to talk to Scott from SoCo about this stuff too, because I think it's important. But you have, let me get the screen up correctly here. So this is from the survey. This was interesting. I've got, I asked some questions about attending card shows. And it was specific to soccer card shows. 90% of people said they would attend one. So that's huge for you, obviously, and the other guys at SoCo that are doing this. Now, this was interesting. The factors that encourage attendance. When you look at this, for me, and for all of us the other night when we went over this, most people will be listening to this on Thursday when this podcast is released, but the top factor in attending a soccer card show is a presence of soccer legends. So, and then number 4, the location and the cost was the least. So I was really kind of shocked by that. I would have thought that would have been higher, but looking at this, and then you see quality vendors and rare cards, and then number 3, community interaction. I thought community interaction would have been higher, given what I experienced at SoCo. But what is your take on this? What do you think about this?
You know what? I'm not surprised at all. And I'll start off from the bottom up. Okay, the location and cost. I can tell you that we have soccer vendors coming in from Buffalo, New York. They're flying in. At least one guy that I know is flying over. We have people from Delaware, uh, New York, obviously, and Pennsylvania. So these people want, in this particular case, soccer vendors, they want to be in an all soccer card show event, and that's pretty obvious. So that doesn't surprise me because we have basically everyone from the tri-state area coming. And we need to get some of the guys over from Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Connecticut because, and that's something in the future. We need to do a soccer card show somewhere in that area, in that vicinity. I'm thinking there's a lot of Portuguese social clubs, as you know, like in Yonkers, Tarrytown, and Austining, and so on, White Plains. So this is a good place to have it. So location and cost, I'm not surprised that very few people, say it would be a reason for them not to go, right?
Yeah.
Now, the community interaction, I gotta be honest, we're trying to work with the Gotham FC, the women's professional soccer team here in New Jersey. We try to bring them on with a table. I'm not even going to charge for the table to do kind of meet and greet, have a player come in and sign autographs and stuff, and get involved with the local people. Even potentially do a raffle so that they can have give away free tickets for an upcoming game. We're trying to do that. One hand washes the other. I give them a free table. They promote the event, and they also promote the club.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the quality of vendors. I mean, to name you a few, SAC cards is going to be there. Two Brothers cards are going to be there. Sunday League Investors right now is on. He's going to be doing some content besides having the table and so on. The Tuga Breaks, which I'm sure you know, your buddy,
Yep.
Big Fista, he's going to be on. Pegasus Sporting Goods, it's got over 30 years of history in the soccer community. These are some of the names off the top of my head. Delaware Sports Cars, I think the name is. So he's coming from Delaware. So all these quality vendors are definitely going to come up. They're going to bring some rare cards. Now, as far as the presence of soccer legends, here's one thing. I reached out. I'm sure you heard that the New York Cosmos seem to be back. I don't know if you
Yep.
heard about.
I did hear about that.
Giuseppe Rossi is, I don't know if he's the general manager or the president or something. One of the first card shows that I ran in Newark, New Jersey, we had him on as a guest, in attendance as a soccer legend. We're trying to get a couple of guys from New York Cosmos. I'm kind of friends with Mr. Eskandarian from the times of Pele and Beckenbauer. He owns a soccer shop. That's how come I've met him for over 15 years. Birkenmeyer, the famous goalkeeper from New York Cosmos. We're trying to get him on board also to be at this show. So presence of soccer legends is big, and I think that's one of the things that for sure Scott is going to have to work on for next year. And if you allow me further down the show, I'll let you in on some things that I want to do in the next card show, not in this one. But I'm crossing my fingers that we can have a soccer legend, one that's currently playing right now, and I'll give you some hints.
That's
in a while.
fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. I know one thing. I probably should get a table too. And I'm in Connecticut. I'm not in Massachusetts, but so I'll get back to you on that. I got to talk to the missus first, get the permission to say, hey, I'm going to go away for this day.
I know
And,
the drill.
I'm going to go down there and do this. So I'm most likely, I'm not really selling a lot of stuff these days because I like to keep a lot of stuff because, with my Jerome Neves collection continue to grow quite a bit. And, but I'm excited. I definitely plan on going. I got to try to talk to the other Paolo. So there's another Paolo Shuva who's the Rui Patricio collector on Instagram.
Yes, I know.
He's over in Fall River, Massachusetts. So, hopefully he'll want to come down too, and we can make a kind of a tag team effort going
Even
down
if
there.
it's
But I'm
just
excited.
networking, right? Even if it is for networking, hanging
Oh,
out.
yeah, absolutely. I know for me personally, I have some things I'm kind of working on right now. For example, I'm working on that the book that I want to do. I'm writing a book about soccer cards. It is basically complete, but I'm waiting on Panini and Topps, which is why I went to the National. I went to go talk to those guys. So this is a big deal. Um, I don't know if I'll have it ready for that. It would be spectacular if I had that ready to go at your show to sell there. It could
You're
be a kind of
kidding.
a debut for me, but
Wow, that would be great.
yeah, and some people know about this. Not everybody knows about this. I've kind of kept it a little under wraps. So there's some significant things going on behind the scenes for me that I'm doing. No one's done this before. Even this survey that I did on the hobby, I'm going to start sharing some of that on Instagram with some posts and stuff because there's some really interesting kind of things in that survey. So yeah, I know you haven't listened to it yet, but I know you will eventually. The other thing I wanted to, so I'm really looking forward to the show. I think a lot of people are. I do, and one of the conversations we were having last night on that particular slide I showed you was the idea that these niche kind of events for these particular, let's say, soccer cards, even hockey cards, because I collect hockey too, where there aren't a lot of the local card shows. I'm in Connecticut. I'm originally from Boston, but the card shows up here in the Northeast, it's very hard to find soccer. You might find one or two vendors at these shows. So it makes it really difficult. And we know there's a niche market. And that's probably why the bottom of that was location and cost. It didn't matter to people because there isn't that niche. They're saying, you know what, instead of me spending, $60, $100 a table on these other shows that I'm doing, I'll do one show. I'll pay the cost of travel and get it done that way where I can see more people that are in that hobby. That's a big, important piece. Now, I know you didn't go to the National. I know you were in Portugal. I'm extremely jealous because normally this is the time of year I'm there too as well. But unfortunately, this year I can't attend this summer. We're going to be going for Christmas, obviously, to see my parents. So that'll be exciting for us. But tell me a little bit about the show in Porto. I saw some of your stories while I was at the National. I was like, man, that show looks packed. It looks really exciting. Tell me a little bit about that show.
Well, the show, I want to give credit where credit is due. And that would be myself in the sense that I was the one that had the idea. There had been a couple other shows. There was one in Porto, but they call it a Porto Card Show, and a couple others in Lisbon. Now, I felt that, the name of Portugal Card Show would actually bring everyone together and see, okay, this is a one card show for Portugal. And it worked. I got to be honest. I didn't do much work behind it because it was obviously being here in the U.S. I had two great friends of mine that did amazing work. One of them owns a local card shop in Porto, right outside of the Campanhã train station, Loja dos Cromos. That's my friend Tiago. And then I had one of the guy that does the Bar dos Cromos breaks. His name is Ricardo Gonçalves, also from Porto. And he was basically the organizer, as far as all the logistics of getting things ready, very detailed. Tiago from the card shop was unbelievable with content and promoting the event. And I really didn't do much until the time I got there. And let me tell you, Paulo, I was pleasantly surprised at the outcome, at the response we got from people. Far exceeded my expectations. I think we had close to 1,000 people coming in, and paid a nominal fee of one euro. But the vendors, we had to limit the vendors. We at least 2 weeks before the event, we sold out. We didn't have enough space. This was held in a school with great facilities in the city of Porto, right by the Boa Vista Stadium, which was original.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be our venue, but because of the issues that they had, they
Yep.
basically declared bankruptcy. We had to get a backup plan, and thank God the guys were able to pull that off, in a matter of days. And we rented the tables and so on. But it was really, really, like I said, exceeding my expectations. We had the TCG crowd that really helped a lot. I would say probably half and half, and that drew a big crowd. Let me tell you, all the vendors, all the visitors, they were already asking for another show. And my colleagues are working on that one, potentially for the month of October or November, and most likely at the same location. So it was great. And I think, again, the name that we gave it, a Portugal Card Show, really brought people together and kind of said, this is our first national card show. And it has room to grow for sure. And it will get even better.
Yeah, that's I was encouraged to see the traffic in there. I was like, wow, like
Right.
this
As soon
is
as
like
we opened the doors and we had people waiting outside. And let me tell you, some of the best crowds weren't shown on the videos because everybody was so busy.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was really, really, really good.
And I didn't so I didn't realize the TCG was such a big thing over there. I didn't realize that. And one of the things in my survey we talked about when I looked at so I had some people from Portugal fill out the survey. There were some people from Europe, and it was kind of like, and I forget which slide it was, but it was something that kind of showed me that, and I was trying to make an assumption that maybe in Portugal we're not seeing the distribution of cards as effective as they should be. Maybe Fanatics is not doing that correctly. I don't know.
That's true.
Do you have any insight on that? Like I'm making that assumption because I don't know, but because even last summer when I was in Portugal, I didn't really see cards many places. I saw plenty of the stickers, right? I go to Pingo Dos or I go to in Mangualde where my parents live. I go and see, at the newsstands they'd have the stickers, but I never saw cards ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also true with my colleague's card shop that I said in Porto. It carries mostly stickers, and that's because he really has a hard time to get any kind of response from Panini and Tops. Thankfully, some of my old contacts from Panini Spain, you're talking about contacts that I've had for over 20 years, was able to get us some type of promotional products from Panini into the show. So we said it was sponsored by Panini. They gave away a few dozen albums from this season's collection from Portugal. The 24, 25, and a lot of boxes that we basically handed out to every visitor that came in. Tried to reach out to Tops, for example. There was no reply. So yeah, but I was surprised to see though that some of these vendors somehow got a hold of some boxes, and I'm thinking I got to be honest, I didn't kind of go roam around much because I was kind of busy, but I'm assuming that some of this product that they get is either from Spain or from Germany,
Yeah.
because in Portugal you hardly ever found it, but the vendors did come through with some good stuff that I was pleasantly surprised. But you're right,
Yeah.
nowhere out
So
there you'll get it.
yeah. And and I'm happy to, and I think I've talked to I think it's Tiago, right, from Bar dos Cromos.
Ricardo is from Bar dos Cromos,
Oh
Tiago
yeah, that's it.
from Loja dos Cromos.
Okay, so yeah, so I think I've spoken to one of them before, because I bought some Rodrigo Mota autograph rookie
No, that
stickers
that
that I
was probably
wanted.
Tiago for sure.
Yeah, okay, so whoever may be, and maybe I can help them out too because I actually met with um kind of by accident in the tops with the national. I met with the lead in the UK for the Champions League products. So I'm happy to see if I can network with them to get them in touch with him because I'm kind of in active discussions with him too, anyways. So I'll try to see if I can facilitate that to somehow to make it easier because obviously I think Portugal's a really good place to grow the hobby more so. In tops, all they have to do is look at that videos that you had. All they have to do is look at those videos and see how packed that was. And this is not a knock on Soko because for Soko, I showed up there on Saturday at the National, and I flew in Saturday morning, and I flew home Sunday morning at 5 a.m. I didn't even stay in a hotel. I was like in and out. Uh, so it was very tough, but it's hard when you have a 2-year-old. It's like you can't be away that long. When I was at Soko, I was impressed with the vendors were there. It just didn't seem as packed, and maybe it was packed on Thursday and Friday, and Saturday it wasn't as busy. But when I saw your videos, I was like mesmerized. I was like, wow, this is fantastic that they're doing this over there. So hopefully I can be a part of that at some point too, to be there to experience that. So, that's fantastic to hear. I'm very happy to hear that. 'Cause I know last summer there was one held in Lisbon, and I know You might know him, one of our good buddies there, Madhouse Cards in Canada.
Yes, I know.
He vended at that show, I believe, and he kind of gave me a mixed bag on it. He was kind of like, in the videos I saw, it didn't seem like it had the traction. Maybe they didn't spend the money on the marketing, or they didn't market it properly. Could have been the case. But compared to the show that you guys did, especially in Porto, which is the second biggest city, some of those guys are going to be like, that's a knock on Porto. It's not a knock on Porto, but
But not honestly, between you and I, the biggest collectors in Portugal are up north. Though you're probably surprised to hear that, but this
that
is
is surprising.
yeah. The biggest collectors are up there, and I got to be honest with you again. I think the work that these two guys put uh, um, Ricardo and Tiago, was absolutely phenomenal. Especially with Ricardo being the organizer, we had meetings, obviously, the video meetings, but he was on point with everything as far as what needed to be done and make sure that we get it done. And unfortunately, like I said, I couldn't be of much help with that. So I got to give these two guys were phenomenal. I can't take any credit for that other than giving the idea and say, let's get
Yeah.
this. You know what I'm saying? So
No, that's a huge congratulations to those guys. Obviously, that's fantastic. Hopefully, I'll have them on at some point too, because I'm trying to expand my reach too. So this is kind of I'm trying to put out 2 podcasts a week. So it's going to be very important for me going forward, to even include that. Now, at the show, what were people buying? Did you notice anything interesting?
I speak for myself because, like I said, I didn't roam around much. I did very well in 2 areas. I had tons of doubles of Panini stickers going back all the way to 91. 1991 was basically the first time that Panini released a Portugal set, right? And so thankfully, I kept a lot of doubles starting from 1991 all the way up to 2006. So I did a lot of single sales on these stickers. A lot of people looking to fill, their 2003 set, and I had loads of them. So they spent a lot of time in front of my table just going through and looking for the numbers. They came prepared with their list of needs. So that was one of my biggest sales. And then I sold a lot of sealed boxes from Portugal sets, going back all the way to 2001. So I did really well with that. But I did see a lot of ultra modern singles. I saw a lot of slab cards, which I was surprised. And I got to be honest with you, some of these prices that I saw were very, very low compared to what we see asking prices in a lot of the soccer shows here. I'm not one to be buying, especially ultra modern, but I did look at those prices and said, this is really, I was tempted to buy a lot of stuff, but I say I'm not going to do it because I wanted to go back home a lot lighter than I did when I left. You know what I'm saying?
For sure, for
I'm
sure.
able to accomplish that, thankfully. But yeah, but it's
So
a variety of everything.
yeah, so in terms of like the vibe, obviously, right? In Portugal, it's a very kind of still sticker culture, right? Is it transitioning, or are people doing
Yes.
both? What's that like?
Yeah, I find that the older crowd, maybe the 40, 45 and older crowd still looks for a lot of these stickers. They're still set on that. But I do see a lot of the 40 and under crowd, they pretty much stick with, the modern, the card. And like I said, a lot of them are already looking to slab them. I don't know if you heard, but Beckett is now in Germany. They're doing their thing in Germany. So they're going to start, grading a lot of these cards that they have. Again, I think you can draw the line between 40 and 45 and over stickers still. Under that crowd is more gearing towards the
The
card as well.
cards. Yeah, yeah. And what were people buying a lot of Portugal stuff basically, or was it like, were they buying specific players, teams, or
For me, I found a lot of people buying the Portuguese players. At least 3 or 4 guys came in and they just bought everything that I had for Porto, for example, Porto
yeah.
players. I mean, bunches of single cards like this that they were buying, and strictly that. Other tables that I saw next to me, that they had ultra modern stuff, they were buying all these different players. They didn't have to be Portuguese now. So
Yeah, yeah, because I was kind of like, I thought about this while I was at the national. I'm like, wow, that would have been a great opportunity for me to get rid of some of my, let's say, base cards, right? Really cheap, right? Of like Porto, Sporting, Benfica player, whatever it may be, right? Because I feel like in a market like that in Portugal, there's probably more collectors than actual people investing or flipping or whatever they do. You know what I mean? It's kind of more of a passion for the collecting aspect where, some people like us where we're selling some stuff, obviously, and to purchase other stuff that we like for ourselves, it's different over there. So it's a kind of a
yeah,
different culture, which is
yeah,
kind of unique. It kind of brings back and that's why, you're giving credit to Thiago and Ricardo, right? Because they're doing it for all the right reasons, right? It's kind of like yourself, running the show in New Jersey. You're doing it for the right reason, which is to spread and grow the community. I do the podcast, I do the posts on Instagram for the right reasons. I'm not getting compensated, but maybe someday I will, who knows, right? So I think that's really important, and it's really such an organic type of feeling to celebrate these things. You start to wonder, what you're trying to do right now by creating you obviously not going to you don't want to compete with Sacco, but you're just saying I want to do or Soko, sorry. I just got back from the Saco River last week, and that's what's on my mind. You don't want to compete with them, but a regional show. And we talked about this last night on our podcast. I actually talked about this last night. I said, there is a place for regional shows for soccer. You're talking about doing one in Jersey, maybe getting up here in the Northeast to do maybe Boston or the tri-state area up here or New England per se. Then you have all those guys in California, right? Where there's a nice network that could develop with that to create these experiences, right? I think it's really important.
Paulo. And just so that you know, going back months ago, I ran this by Scott, in a personal call that I had with him. And I told him, listen, the same way you have, for example, NCAA basketball, you have the Final Four and then you have
Sure.
the final, right? We have the regionals before that, right? And I think right now we're at this stage that we can definitely, make this happen. The problem with Scott, and I understand it 100%, is that it's in order for it to work for him, you would need to be having a physical presence. You know what I'm saying? And it might be difficult for him to do that, and have to work with a team of people to get that done. Because if you do things, with one or two guys, you're going to forget something. It's not going to go as well. But I do feel that at some point, more and more of these regional soccer card shows are going to start happening. This is just the start.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I understand what you're saying when it comes to having a team of people, having worked I worked in the events industry for a long time. Specifically, I ran the largest metal construction trade show on earth. And that was if I remember correctly, 120,000 square foot show with, you know, 10 to 15,000 attendees. And I was in charge of all the vendors. Um, so logistic planning, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, even for doing, this event that you're doing. The guys from SoCo, obviously, I understand that. But I agree with you. I think there's an opportunity here for people to do something really special and unique. We had these kind of, I don't want to call them, the last 2 years were kind of, for a lot of people, they were slow, right? I saw a lot of people enter the hobby and then leave. They're gone. They don't even answer my Instagram messages anymore. I just check up on them to see how they're doing. They don't even answer because they're just not doing soccer, whatever it was. It became too hard for them to flip, whatever the reason is. Maybe finances were tough or different, but I think it's important. People like you, some of the others that I continuously talk to, that we're still here and engaged in this. I think it's really important. And I know you have a history. Uh, and I never really asked you too much about this, but you used to run a soccer supply shop,
Soccer.
right?
I owned a soccer store in total for 19 years, starting in 2005. So I just sold my last store last year, so I'm officially retired now. So I do have a bit of experience and knowledge or know-how in soccer. So that kind of helped me. Believe it or not, I've been into soccer cards and stickers way before that. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just love
And
it.
that's kind of one of the things that I thought about this recently too. And in order for us to kind of grow this hobby, I think we need to start talking to some of these soccer card shops, right? Or soccer shops, and then why they should be carrying cards.
Yes,
Because if you have kids coming in, or even adults that are in high school, whatever the case may be, even the guys that are in the over 40 leagues, right? Um, I played when I was living in Boston. I played in a league there. It was a rec league. We played once a week, in the city. Pretty competitive. It wasn't crazy, but it was competitive. I got a red card once in a game, which was kind of funny in a rec league, but I think there's an opportunity there. And the reason I thought of this was because at SoCo, there was actually a card shop at the facility. No, not a card shop, sorry, a soccer shop that had jerseys, cleats, everything, right? But they had no cards. And I was kind of like, why don't these guys sell cards? They should sell cards, even if it's not singles, but if they sell, slabs or anything. But I think there's a market for that, for those cards, for those
for
soccer
sure.
shops.
Just
You know,
just so you know, Paulo, the way eventually I got to purchase the soccer store was by me getting my foot in the door in 2001 and bringing in the Portuguese collection with the one that has the Quaresma rookie sticker. I
yep.
brought that in and I sold the idea to the owner of the store, Pegasus Sporting Goods, and he liked the idea. I said, "Yeah, no problem. You can have these in, and where people used to buy to pay at the counter." There was a glass display, and there were some of the stickers there, and it started doing really well. 2002 comes around, the World Cup in Korea, South Korea, and Japan, and I brought in the Panini World Cup sticker set, and that took off. So so I was getting these at a very good price from Panini Spain, which basically I was a salesman for them. Believe it or not, 40% a discount from the retail price, which is
Wow.
unbelievable. The thing is, it used to cost me some money with the shipping. Whether it be UPS or whether I would pick it up at the airport. But it was a little bit expensive. But I still kept the prices relatively low to allow for not just adults like us, but kids to go into the soccer store and buy these packs. And so that took off, and eventually that got to the point where the owner of the store said, "Hey, listen, would you like to buy the store?" And I said, I never thought about that, but it led to eventually me purchasing the store.
Was that the one on Ferry Street?
Pearl Street, yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
so I'll tell you a funny story, because I want to say this was probably in 2002 or 2003. I was on Ferry Street with my parents and cause I had some cousins here from Portugal visiting, and we were there. And then I returned back in 2006 again at some point. And I think I saw boxes of the Ronaldo rookies
For
in
sure.
the store,
You did. By
at
then,
that
I owned the
point.
store in 2006.
Yeah, it's so funny how the world's small, right? It's just like, it's so crazy to think about that. Just so you're aware too, you've probably heard of the Laza League, right?
Yes, the Luso
It's the
American.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah, my father was a president of one of the teams back in the '80s, and he talks about this. Like, he's like, man, we used to pay the players back then. It
Yes.
wasn't. To me, that was kind of wild. In a semi-pro league, these guys were paying these players, but they were good players.
You had a lot of players that didn't officially retire in Portugal, and they would come and play here. We had a lot. I played against the players that played first division in Portugal. you
Yeah,
know, at least two handfuls of them, guys that scored against Benfica. I know one guy that played for Shops. His name was Cesar, a good forward, that he was also a Benfica fan, and he scored against Benfica. And Benfica fans would hate him because of that, because they didn't win the championship because of his goal that he scored. And he
because of
was
that
a
goal.
Benfica fan. So
Yeah,
a lot of second division players played. I played against them many times. I played against Vasco da Gama over there in was it Bridgeport, Connecticut? I think it was.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. I think. Yeah.
I went to play against them there. So yeah, great teams from Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of full circle moment for me, when I think about this, like I realize, oh man, he did own that card, that soccer store there at that point in time. And it's good to kind of see how everything's kind of evolved, and to recognize certain things where I've been there a few times. I know what's in that place,
Let me tell
and
you.
I saw things there.
Let me tell you one other funny story. I want to say one of my shows that I did, not just soccer card shows, I did an all sports show. A kid comes up to me and he says, "Oh, let me show you this picture." He shows me a picture of the 71B's Messi rookie card, right? And he goes, "You recognize this card?" I said, "Yeah, that's the Messi rookie card." Just so that you know, my father handed this card down to me uh, after he bought it at your store. Do you know how much he paid for this card? I said, I don't know. He paid $5 for that card back in,
My goodness.
it must have been 2005, 2006. But here's this random kid out of nowhere comes up to me and shows me this and said, "Didn't you own Pegasus Sporting Goods?" I said, "Yeah." "Do you recognize this card?" I said, "Of course." So can you imagine he bought this card for $5, even if it's a PSA 4 now? I just got off of the checking eBay. A PSA 4 right now is going for $4,300 right now for a PSA 4. Imagine that the return on that investment at $5.
No, exactly. Especially if the card was taken care of, right? Like
Yeah,
we don't even.
I had it in top loader. I had it in a sleeve and top loader
Yes.
and
So it's
selling.
probably maybe it's a 9 or a 10. Who knows, right? Like, that kind of brings me to the next topic here. Like we are seeing this like surging price movement on Messi and Ronaldo cards. And I actually a year ago I said that the Ronaldo stuff was going to go up eventually. It has to. Um, and even last night I said if he wins the World Cup next year, the discussion's over. He's the best of this generation, but he's got to win the World Cup to
There's
be
always going
there.
to be people that are going to point to the number of Ballon d'Ors that Messi won over Ronaldo. That's the only thing. But other
But
than
we know that Ballon d'Or
yes,
is
yeah,
it's now a political thing. It's not even. I tell everybody that FIFA and UEFA hate Portugal, and they go, "What are you talking about?" And I say, "Well, you can start with." So tomorrow I have that podcast coming out on Futra. It's they're quick segments I do on players. I did George Costa was the first one I ever did. They're like 5 to 10 minutes long, and I talk about their careers. And I tell people Futra should have won the '87 Ballon d'Or, and he didn't win that. He was a European Player of the Year, but he didn't win the '87 Ballon d'Or. And then you look at Ronaldo; he could have won 2 other ones too as well. No offense to Croatian football collector who says Modric when he won the title for coming in second in the World Cup. I mean, come on. I think Ronaldo scored 50 something goals that year, and he still didn't win. And he won the Champions League. So it's a political thing. It's not even. I don't really take tremendous value in it anymore. I
why
just
didn't
don't.
Iniesta won the year that they won the World Cup? And remember that when Messi took it,
Yep.
also Iniesta deserved
Yeah.
it, for example.
Yeah. For sure. But we're seeing the surge, and one of the issues is obviously, well, it's not an issue. I think it's warranted. These two guys are a cut above the rest, right? But I think the hobby, we're so, and I fall into this trap too, chasing rookies down, right? We're looking for the next guy to be that guy. And I think people need to start to realize that this is a once in a lifetime thing, that these two guys did what they did. We're not going to be this fortunate to look at this again and say, there's two guys like that again. There's probably not going to be. And I kind of, for the younger crowd, I tell people that the players from, I'm going to say 15 to 20 years ago, I think the top 10 players in the world were probably significantly better than the top 10 players today. And people argue with me on that, but the top 10 from then are better than the
I
players
agree
today.
with
But
you. I agree with you. It's just off the top of my head, let's name some names besides those two goats. You have R9, Ronaldo. You have Zidane. You have I just mentioned Iniesta.
yep, you have Ronaldinho, you have Figo.
Come on, there's just too many. The top 10 definitely would be better than any top 10 you can have right now.
I mean, I always say this. I'm not a Sporting fan. I'm a Benfica fan, but I always say this: Figo, his position in the world today, there's nobody better than him. during his like today there isn't. And even you look at some of the other players like a Roberto Carlos, right? I mean, Nuno Mendes is knocking on that door right now
Okay.
because he's spectacular. I'm not trying to be a homer, but
Yeah,
the kid is spectacular player. But again, going back to Ronaldo, Messi, these guys are obviously the two elite of the elite. How much more can this thing go on? And I think with Ronaldo, I think he's going to have the thing I see with Ronaldo is people recognize him more, right? He's done a really good job marketing himself, right? He's going to be relevant for a long time. And I think Messi does that too, but he doesn't do it as well as Ronaldo does. How much more can we see this happen? And then you look at some of the other stuff besides their rookies, like the '06 World Cup cards or the Euro Ronaldo card sticker, right? In my eyes, I think some of those are undervalued. Even the Messi 2006 sticker World Cup first World Cup card.
yeah, for sure. That brings me. I've had in the back of my mind that I want to do. I want to do like a little video with some of the most undervalued early cards of Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, and there's a few of them. You know, off the top of my head, you know, the Paixão por Portugal
Yep.
sticker, the Bulicao is very undervalued. But yeah, I think all those cards. I don't know when they're going to take off because everybody still wants just the rookies, or nowadays they want the parallel, numbered cards. But you got a lot of good stuff, in the early years of these two guys, and I agree that 2006 is still undervalued, especially the stickers. I think the cards, I think the cards, you're still going to continue to see an increase in pop on PSA because there's still a good amount of boxes and even cases available out there. As far as the stickers are concerned, which again we know the American culture is not to go after these as much as the European. But I do believe that 2006 and even the Euro 2004 stickers and cards are definitely undervalued. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make a comparison here, but recently, I don't know if you saw this, but recently a Tom Brady Prism Gold, not his first Prism Gold, but his second Prism Gold, I think sold for about 150K. It's not even a first Prism, it's a second Prism. So I think eventually in the soccer space, we're going to see stuff like that happen. I
Yeah,
just, it's the world's biggest sport, I mean, it has to. And these are guys, if Brady's there, Ronaldo and Messi are going to be there too. So, it's an exciting time right now for all of us in soccer to see what's going on with the market and trying to figure out these next moves, right?
yeah, and Paulo, and honestly, I mean, I don't know if it's been 100% confirmed or not. But with the recent sale of that PSA 10 of that Messi rookie, 800, what was it, 825,000?
Yeah.
That's just astronomical number. It's almost hard to believe, only because of the highest sale before that was I want to say in the 300s, right? 300,000. How does one go?
Yeah.
But if that's proven to be true, I mean, what else do you need for the market to continue to go up, leading up to the World Cup? That's really around the corner. We're 10 months away from that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of funny because I start to think about this, and even during COVID, when those prices were shooting up, I was like, the Ronaldo and the Messi stuff, they've got to go up even higher. Even the COVID days, I was like, those things are going to be higher money, and they're getting there. Uh, you're just seeing some people can't afford those cards now, so they're like, what's my next best option? What is it? Is it the Euro '04 Ronaldo in a PSA 9 or a PSA 10? Is it the '06 Messi, the sticker, or even the card that was issued then, right? And it brings me kind of to another point where we look at like last night, the last podcast I did when I was looking at the survey, there were people that mentioned sets from the '90s, soccer card sets, specifically like Merlin and the Calcio sets of the '90s. Even Pro Set got a two, even though people say it's overprinted or Upper Deck, right? I don't think that stuff is overprinted, but because the pop counts are so low, and you have guys that are significant cards of theirs are in there, like the Figo rookie in the Upper Deck, right? There's a Paulo Futre, which was actually his first card ever, in that upper deck set. There's other guys, in there. There's Valderrama rookies, right? Those I'm looking at this now, and I think the comparison I used on the last podcast was people need to start thinking of those cards like the 1950s and 60s baseball cards.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a
10 to
good.
20 years down the line, I think things are going to change, and you can certainly disagree with me, but I don't know. I just feel like down the line, it might not be in 5 years, it might not be in 10, but in 20 years, I think people are going to be like, wow, that's actually vintage soccer, because the sticker mark and the card mark are two different markets.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy and a good comparison that you just made, and it does make sense because in the '90s, I mean, how many players did you had? Van Basten, for example. Also, you had Maldini, all the Italian players, all the Brazilian players. It makes sense. You had tons of great players in the '90s that a lot of people kind of don't even know. The young collector, your old collector doesn't know about these people, and eventually they will get to know them. So,
Yeah, and then another thing on my podcast, one of the questions was, of the modern players, the top 5 iconic players to them. Do you know what the votes were? Can you
I
guess?
actually saw that. I saw that
You
little.
did see that, the little
I did
snippet.
see that. I and I
That
I
Jude Bellingham, the Bellingham
Yeah,
kind of shocked me a little bit.
yeah. I would have believed that a year ago, but not this time around. But what I
Yeah,
did
Lamin's there
notice,
now.
yeah, what I did notice, and you were mentioning that, and you were questioning about that, was the little gap between Messi and Ronaldo. And that to me was a little surprising, considering the all the prices going on right now. I thought it would be a wider gap, but yeah, I think those are I did see that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the gap there is it's kind of like what was a year and a half ago when I said there's no way Ronaldo cards are 40%
Cheaper.
cheaper than Messi. They shouldn't be. Shouldn't be. I think I had said maybe 10 to 15% was more kind of reasonable.
Yeah.
But the gap is closing. I still think that the Ronaldo cards are still too cheap compared to Messi. So I'm kind of like, but I haven't taken my own advice either. I haven't bought up more Ronaldo stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
You saw the I think I posted this today on my story about how Rally is basically
yeah,
trying to basically sell one of the PSA 10s mega cracks for 100 and change. It was very low, and I actually voted no. And someone actually sent me a message saying it sounds very fishy. I think it was Golden Ball rookies that sent me that, and I kind of agree. I don't understand how so many people that own that card or pieces of that card basically on Rally have said yes to the sale. It just does not make any sense. So I'm hoping that it doesn't go through, but the big numbers, the big majority of people right now seems to wanting to sell that card, which I'm unhappy about.
yeah. I didn't realize Rally was still in business. I thought they went
Yeah,
out of business, but I guess
yeah,
they're still in
they're
business,
still in
right?
business. I still have some cards there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I actually saw that post and I was kind of like, yeah, I think they're selling too early here.
yeah, too early and too cheap.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I totally agree. And, even with the World Cup, we're probably not going to, I tried to tell people, be careful. You're not going to see a World Cup bump. The market's kind of stabilized a little. I mean, soccer's grown 8% since the national, in terms of growth, in terms of sales and volume. And it's been pretty steady all year, which is nice to see. And some of that can be attributed, obviously, to Lamine Yamal kind of hype in the drive there. But even the guy I collect, João Neves, I'm watching what's going on in Asia on his stuff. His stuff sells for more there than it does here.
I believe you. Yeah,
It's the Asian market, and I said this
they're
last night. I
pretty
think
smart over there. They're smart.
yes, that's what I said. I think they're smarter than a lot of us are in terms of the collecting habits and respecting the way players play in their positions, like the Vitinhas of the world, right?
I'm going to
I
ask
think I
you
s-
about Vitinha.
Yeah, I saw enough three, I think, sell for almost $2,000 last month on there. And there's no way that card would sell for 2 grand here in the US, just because the market and I don't, this is not a knock on people, but I don't think a lot of the people here know how to watch the game properly and see what players are doing on the field. They don't always have to have the ball at their feet to understand what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's the old, when they call Holland, he's a box troll, right? But you know what? He puts him in the net, and that's what he's supposed to do. Or Vitinha, when PSG has a bad game, that means Vitinha had a bad game.
Yes.
Normally, you saw that against Chelsea. He had a bad game against Chelsea. And when he has a bad game, they don't play well. It's just how it is. But, I'm just kind of I'm on Card Hobby almost every day looking at the prices. And I'm kind of like, and then I look at whatnot. Like this past week, I got a Nevs out of the PSG exhibition set, which is an on-card auto with a patch. It's numbered to 50. It's a 3-color patch, game worn, and it tells you the specific game. And I paid under $100 for it. But on Card Hobby, the same card without the patch, just an auto numbered to 50, sold for $250. So I'm just like, what is going on here? And then there's people that say, well, there might be some funny business on the bidding, but I don't think so, because Card Hobby is very strict. If you don't pay your stuff, they just kick you off right away. There's no 1, 2, or 3 strikes. Once you don't pay, you're gone. And that's how it works. So, I have to give the people there a lot of credit, because I think they understand the market more so than a lot of us do here in terms of the perennial value of players going forward. I mean, Samu stuff I was buying some Samu, your guy at Porto there, although he was injured yesterday. I'm not sure how serious that was, but I was buying his gold stuff for 30 and $40 last summer. And then moving it for 500 and 550 and 600 because of the hype, right? No longer can I do that though in Card Hobby, because people have caught on to Samu's a good player. So, obviously the hobby still, I think here I think people need to understand why certain players, because we look at those players we talked about, the 90s and the early 2000s, these midfielders that were so instrumental in their team's success. People just don't understand, like, the classic number 10 is gone now, right? The game is very different. It's gone. And I kind of miss that part of the game. It was a more physical game too then than it is now.
Yeah.
But it's evolved, right? So it's kind of like, where do people, everyone's buying strikers, they want to buy strikers, but then again, the number 9 position's kind of gone too. It's kind of like you only have a few guys that are really true number 9s. What do you think is going to happen going forward as people become more educated and try to understand? Do we see the midfielders and defenders start to get a little more respect? I mean, the Nev stuff, I think, is getting a lot of respect. He's young. He works hard. He's a kid it's hard not to like him because of his effort. But there's other players out there, the Rodris of the world that are fantastic footballers, but he doesn't get the respect either in the card market. But what's it going to take for that market to kind of elevate itself?
Yeah. But it's the same old thing. I mean, the collectors will go after the numbers. They're going to go after the guys that score the goals or dish out the assists. And that's going to be true for a long time. The Xavis and the Iniestas back then, which nowadays are the Vitinha and the Ronaldos. I don't know if they're ever going to get the love that they deserve, because they won't be the scorers. The people are going to go after the Mbappes and the Haalands and so on. That's just the way it is. But as far if you're a soccer enthusiast and you enjoy the game, then you give these midfielders and the wingers, you give them the proper credit. But as far as the card collecting, I don't think that those the great midfielders will translate into getting the respect that they deserve on the soccer card hobby. Thing that's just
Yeah,
my
it's kind of, yeah, and I agree with you there. But the other part of it is, like, one of the things that I talked about was on the podcast today. I talked about undervalued players, and one guy that popped up on that list was Pulisic. And I don't think people realize how good he is. He was one of the best players in Serie A last year, and his market, I think, is pretty healthy. But I still think he's undervalued a little bit. But he's a guy that obviously has to perform at the World Cup, right?
Right,
So
that's
it's,
the problem. It doesn't translate onto a national team level. You know what I'm saying? It always seems to bring disappointments, regardless of whether they win the Gold Cup. They run here. The stage of the World Cup is the big stage, and if the U.S. national team keeps disappointing with performances, and getting so much bad feedback from some of the commentators that you hear on TV, like the Landon Donovan's and what's his name? They used to be a goalie. I forget his name. Another guy that he does. Oh my God, he played for Metro Stars
Is
national
it
team guy. Tim Howard.
not,
Tim Howard. Tim
Tim
Howard.
Howard? Yeah.
Yeah. So these guys keep giving some pushback, and deservedly or not, it's not good for business.
And that's one of the unique things too about soccer, right? I think compared to the other sports, I would say hockey and soccer are the two sports where the national team stuff matters. And in hockey, those cards really don't matter that much on the card side. But in terms of the pride, so the NBA and basketball, the Team USA, the world's catching up. It's kind of boring. It's been boring for 40 years. The US romps everybody. Baseball, no one cares about the baseball World Classic. Soccer is different though, right? And I haven't looked at some of the values in terms of Ronaldo cards, on the club level versus a national team level, what the difference in pricing is. I haven't looked at that enough, but I know there is significant difference when it comes to national team versus, right. I think a lot of people prefer the national team cards,
Right now.
but
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's just because of the, again, we're looking at this. We're talking about first World Cup stickers and cards and how important they are, and that's probably because the World Cup's only held every 4 years,
Hmm.
right? And that's the importance of, or the Euro is every 4 years as well. So there's a lot of importance there where the other sports don't have that kind of option where somebody can say, besides that, the Stephen Curry, Durant, and LeBron triple auto that finally appeared and it's on golden now.
Is that the logo man? The logo man? Yeah.
No, it's just the 3 cards, the Olympic card that when they won.
Oh,
Yeah.
some
The
kid.
on card. Yeah, the on card auto. Yeah, it was very kind of just strange, just popped up all of a sudden a golden auction. So it was just like so I'm curious to see what that sells for, because I don't know if it's going to sell for as much as people think, but on the national level, it's just really interesting to see how this is soccer so much different.
And that's how Pulisic gets hurt, even though he's a great club player. You know what I'm saying? He's in a good team right now. With Rafael Leao over there, that's a great duo up front. And I like that Mexican guy, that Jimenez guy,
Yeah, Santiago Jimenez, yeah.
very good player.
Should have came to Benfica instead, though. That was a bad move for him. I'm only kidding when I say
He's
that,
quite
but
expensive, though. He was very
yeah,
expensive.
we have a lot of money. We have a lot of money. It's running out, though. I think at Benfica, I heard Luis Felipe Vieira say that there's going to be some problems financially coming up for Benfica, so because he's going to run again for president.
When they had to sell their boy João Neves last year, that was an indication of things to come.
Yeah, for 40 million too. What a steal for PSG they got, too cheap, too cheap. All right. Well, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate you coming on. We're looking forward to the
Thank you.
show. Remind everybody again when the show is, how to get in touch with you if they have questions, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so the show, it's an all soccer card show. It's going to be run right in central New Jersey in a town called Clark, and it's in the Clark Recreation Center, a big gym, plenty of parking. It's going to be run on September 27th. It's a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we hope to see everyone there. It's easy. It's exit 135 off the Garden State Parkway. You can also take the train to Cranford and then get an Uber. I mean, it's the location is perfect for everyone.
How far is that from Newark, by the way?
From Newark, it's about 15, 20 minutes with no traffic.
Okay, it's pretty close. Okay, good.
Yeah. Really
because
easy.
if I come down to that, which I'm probably going to, regardless, I'll probably get a table too. I have to go get my Portuguese food while I'm in Newark too, so that'll be important.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll do it.
All right, thank you, Paulo. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys, for being on this show. Bye. Take care.